Hello everyone, welcome to a demonstration that we're going to have with Mark regarding Scratch. He's just going to show us a little bit of how to get started with some basic things. So we've got a simple control here. What do we have on the screen here, Mark?
So this is a slider. Normally you can do sliders with a mode using variables, but I made this myself. It's basically just another way to use sliders.
What happens when you drag it?
Well, so the variable up here is shown. You drag it and the variable changes.
So it has a value based on its position.
So currently it's X position based.
Okay.
If you were to make it Y position based, then you could drag it up and down,
So
and up would mean positive, down would mean negative.
So can you explain a little bit about some of the code that you put in to just make this simple control for someone that would be interested in getting started with Scratch?
So I have a couple of variables. Variables are always important. This up here that has the shadow, I'm using that as kind of like a boolean, which are normally in diamond-ended blocks, but you can set it to true or false based on like what's happening right now, if you have like a big condition, or sometimes like a key press can be nice. So anyway, Y 0, X 0, go to X 0, Y 0, which is the very center of the screen, and number, it has a check here, meaning it's shown. It's the only variable shown. It is the display right here. It's this number.
So is that number a different sprite?
No, it is not a new sprite.
So the sprite, the only item that is being described with the X and Y position is the white dot in the middle. Is that right?
Yes.
And then based on that, you're displaying a text message with that variable that you're showing. Is that right?
Correct. Up, this boolean variable thing. So 1 is true, meaning that your slider goes up and down. 0 is false, meaning it goes left and right, as is shown here. So this is what it does. I probably should do this. There we go. So now
so
if
you've changed that to be a vertical slider.
Uh-huh.
Just with that flag, that could represent... So it looks like it's not drawing the black in between.
I probably want that down here. There we go. That'll work.
So that's the part that draws the black, and then...
So that part is done using pen, which is... I mean, you don't need to use it in every project, but sometimes it's cool to have that.
That's just a quick way to make
people can render like a whole 3D game using just one sprite with pen.
Wow.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I can't believe it. So it has clear, which is down in this function. These define blocks are functions, and then these slightly brighter blocks are inside of them. They are parameters. They can be used as just about anything depending on what you use. I usually just end up using them to create better graphics and to organize.
So how about that vector min and vector max? What are those?
As explained here, vector min and vector max are, if you're used to JavaScript, they are not vector points. It is just where they start and end. So vector min is meant to be like
The ends of the slider bar?
the bottom or furthest left part. And then vector max is the top or furthest right.
Where do you define those to begin with?
Right here. So you can edit this if you want. So let's say minus 18. Why not?
Oh, and because it's a parameter, it takes that in as a new item. Gotcha.
Now, since I didn't edit the other one, it can only go to here.
So that's as far as it can be dragged now.
So that's as far as it can be dragged. But then, you have to edit this to be the same thing. So now when you click flag, you can only go from here to here.
Now it's a small slider.
Now it's like now it's incredibly tiny.
So and it just knows when you're calling that drag that whatever numbers you feed it, it uses that number wherever you've used vector min and vector max.
Now you have to make sure that this one is. You have to make sure that this one is a negative number, and that this one is also a negative number.
Oh, why doesn't it go up to 125? Why does it seem to end at 62?
So we click stop there. So we did, so if up, then we deal with this. So set number, which is the display over here again, just making sure. Set number to floor of y position divided by 2, which is why it. So we don't want to be like some crazy decimal number that goes from like here to here.
Well, so that's why you'd use the floor.
Floor of y position. So run without screen refresh will make it so that it does it super fast, and it won't show what it's doing until it finishes doing that. And then it displays that. So we clear it so that if you happen to edit, so 0. Now it goes left and right. So we do clear to make sure it doesn't, like,
That when it draws, it resets each frame.
And then set pen color to black for a black slider. You can change it, set pen shade to 0, which is actually how bright it is, for some weird reason. So don't get confused, it's the opposite. It should be pen brightness. Pen down, making it so that it draws as it moves. Set pen size to 30 for a good slider size. If up, which is the same thing up here, it's the Boolean. So if up, then it does 0, 0, y.
Otherwise, it draws along the x.
And then here, if it's not up, then it draws along the x instead of the y. Then you pen up so that you can do a good drag. And then it goes back to where it previously was, because here it sets x to x position, y to y position, and all that good stuff, if you've dragged it.
Well, that's a good introduction. That's a fairly basic program, and even though it looks complicated, you've got just some basic stuff to get started. All right. Well, thanks for showing us that, Mark, and we'll see you next time.